You're lucky I even hired you. Most men wouldn't bother training a girl who's just going to quit the second she gets pregnant. My uncle said that to me on a Tuesday morning in October. Standing in the doorway of his corner office, coffee in hand, like he was commenting on the weather. I had just handed him a client retention report I'd spent 11 days building from scratch. 11 days of cross-referencing, 2 years of booking data, identifying the 12 accounts quietly bleeding out, and mapping exactly why each one was leaving. He set it on the edge of his desk without opening it. I didn't say anything. I picked up my legal pad and walked back to my desk, which wasn't really a desk. It was a folding table wedged between the supply closet and the server rack. Because the main floor was for the sales team, my cousin Spencer had a window office. My cousin Drew had a window office. I had an extension cord and a mini fan I bought myself from Target. That was the moment I started keeping receipts. Not metaphorically. I mean, I literally opened a folder on my desktop and started saving everything. If you've ever been the most competent person in a room that refuses to count you, you already know where this story goes. But stay with me. Because the ending is the part nobody expects, including me. People ask why I stayed 4 years. 4 years at a company where I wasn't on the org chart, wasn't in the benefits portal, and wasn't in a single press quote, despite the fact that I was personally responsible for keeping the 3 largest accounts from walking out the door. And the honest answer's the same one it always is. I thought I was proving something. I thought if I just held on a little longer, did a little more, saved one more disaster, someone would finally say, "Okay, we see you. Here's what you're worth." I was wrong, but being wrong in exactly the right way turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. Let me back up. My uncle started Callaway Event Group out of a spare bedroom in Scottsdale in 2009. By the time I joined in 2019, it had grown into a mid-sized corporate event production firm, with a decent roster of pharma and tech clients in the Phoenix metro area. Nothing flashy. Solid revenue, maybe $6 million a year, built on repeat business, and the fact that my uncle had a gift for schmoozing at Chamber of Commerce mixers. What he did not have a gift for was operations, or logistics, or the basic organizational infrastructure required to run an event without something catastrophically going wrong. That's where I came in. I had just finished my MBA at Arizona State. Supply chain focus, minor in contract law, because I'd taken an elective on a whim and found out I was good at it. My uncle called me the week of graduation and said he needed someone smart to help him get organized. The offer was $38,000 a year, classified as an independent contractor. No benefits, no equity, with a vague promise that once things stabilized, we'd revisit the arrangement. I was 26. I wanted to stay in Phoenix. I told myself it was temporary. It was not temporary. Within 6 months, I was running every major event end to end. I built the vendor database. I wrote the master contract templates. I created the run-of-show format that the whole company still uses. I was the one on the phone with the audio-visual company at 11 p.m. when Spencer had double-booked a rigging crew. I was the one who figured out that Drew had been expensing client dinners that were actually just dinners with his girlfriend and quietly restructured the expense reporting system so it would flag duplicates before they hit the books. Spencer and Drew were, to put it charitably, decorative. Spencer's official title was Senior Account Executive. In practice, this meant he took clients to golf and forwarded their emails to me. Drew was Director of Business Development, which meant he attended networking events, collected business cards, and handed them to me with a post-it note that said, "Follow up." Spencer drove a company-leased BMW. Drew had a company card with a $10,000 monthly limit. I was reimbursed for mileage if I remembered to submit the form before the 15th, which I often forgot because I was too busy doing their jobs. I want to tell you I didn't notice. That I was too focused, too driven, too in the zone to register what was happening. But that's not true. I noticed every single day. I just kept translating the pain into productivity, the way you do when you've been trained to believe that working harder is the same thing as being valued. The real unraveling started with the Hargrove account. Hargrove Biomedical was our biggest client. $1.2 million annually in event production, their national sales conference, 3 regional leadership offsites, and their flagship gala every December in Scottsdale. I had personally managed every single one of those events for 3 years. I knew the VP of Marketing's coffee order. I knew that the CEO had a shellfish allergy and that his assistant always forgot to flag it with catering. I knew that the AV team they preferred had a union contract that required a 30-minute break every 4 hours. And I'd built that into every run of show so we never had a dead stretch. Hargrove stayed because of me. I knew it. Their team knew it. What I didn't know was what they were paying for the privilege. I found out by accident. It was a Wednesday in March. I was looking for a vendor invoice in the shared drive, a folder I created and organized, naturally, and I clicked into a subfolder that wasn't labeled the way I expected. Inside was a compensation summary, not a payroll file exactly, more like a document my uncle had put together for a bank loan application. It listed the key personnel of Callaway Event Group and their annual compensation. Spencer, $145,000 base plus $30,000 base plus $30,000 bonus eligibility. Full benefits. Equity participation, 8%. Drew, $130,000 base plus $25,000 bonus eligibility. Full benefits. Equity participation, 6%. My uncle, $240,000. And then, at the bottom, under a section labeled Contract Support, $42,000 flat annual contract. No benefits. No equity. That was me. $42,000. Not even a name. Just contract support. I sat in front of that screen for a long time. Long enough that the screensaver came on. I remember staring at the little bubbles floating across the monitor and thinking, very clearly, he doesn't see me as a person. I am a line item. I am overhead. I closed the folder. I went back to the email I was drafting, and something in me went very, very quiet. That kind of quiet isn't peace. It's the sound of a decision being made below the level of conscious thought. 2 weeks later, the Hargrove conference almost fell apart. Their December gala was 8 months out, but we were in the middle of the planning cycle for a June leadership offsite in Sedona. Spencer was the named account lead. Spencer was supposed to have confirmed the resort's audio-visual package by end of business Friday. Spencer did not confirm the AV package by end of business Friday because Spencer spent Friday afternoon at a Suns game, which I know because he texted me a photo of himself, courtside with a thumbs-up emoji. On Monday morning, I got a call from the resort coordinator, letting me know that the AV package we'd selected had been given to another booking because we hadn't responded to their hold confirmation. I went to my uncle's office. The AV package for Sedona lapsed, I said. Spencer didn't respond to the hold. We need to find an alternative vendor by Wednesday or we're going to be paying a la carte rates, which will blow the event budget by about $18,000. My uncle looked at me over his reading glasses. He did not call Spencer. He did not look alarmed. He looked mildly inconvenienced. The way you look when someone tells you there's traffic on the 121. Can you find an alternative? I already have 2 options pulled, but Spencer needs to be the one to approve the budget variance, because it's his account. Spencer's in back-to-back client calls today. He waved a hand. Just handle it. Send him a summary afterward. I stared at him. I've been handling it for 3 years. I'd like to be compensated like someone who handles it. The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. We've talked about this, he said. His voice got that particular flatness that I'd learned meant the conversation was over in his mind, even if it wasn't over yet in mine. The contractor arrangement is better for both of us right now. You have flexibility. You're not tied to a desk. I'm at that desk 12 hours a day. You know what I mean. He picked up his phone, glancing at the screen. The business needs to stabilize before we can add headcount to payroll. You know that. Spencer and Drew are on payroll. Spencer and Drew are client-facing. You're operations. It's a different function. I thought about the compensation document, about contract support, about the fact that I had written the proposal that won the Hargrove account in the first place, while Spencer was on a golf trip and Drew was at a conference in Las Vegas that produced exactly 0 new clients. I want a title, I said. At minimum, put me on the website. Let me be director of operations. He sighed. An actual, audible sigh, like I'd asked him to move furniture. It complicates the optics with clients. They like dealing with Spencer and Drew for the relationship side. If you're a director, it raises questions about hierarchy. What questions? Just questions. Let's not overthink it. You're good at what you do. That's enough. That's enough. I left his office and sat back down at my folding table. I pulled up the alternative AV vendor options I'd already researched. I made the calls. I handled it. I sent Spencer a 3-line summary email that he responded to with a thumbs-up emoji. And then, I opened a new browser tab and typed in, Independent Contractor Intellectual Property Rights, Arizona. I want to be honest about what I felt in that moment. It wasn't rage. Rage burns hot and fast. This was something colder. More methodical. I had spent 4 years being the best at something, being essential, being irreplaceable. And I had done it so quietly and so thoroughly that I had made myself invisible. He didn't see me as a threat because he didn't see me at all. I was infrastructure. And infrastructure doesn't negotiate. Infrastructure just runs. He forgot that I built the infrastructure, which means I also knew exactly how it could stop running. I didn't quit that day. I did something more strategic. I went home, called my friend Jonah, who'd gone to law school after we both graduated from ASU, and asked him to meet me for coffee. Jonah practiced intellectual property and contract law at a firm in downtown Phoenix. We'd stayed close after school. He was the kind of lawyer who got genuinely excited about legal nuance. The kind where you ask him one question and 45 minutes later, you have a complete picture of a situation you didn't even know you were in. I showed him the contract my uncle had given me when I started. 4 years ago, 1 page, printed on Callaway Event Group, letterhead, signed by both of us. It covered the basic terms, flat annual rate, quarterly invoicing, 30 days notice for termination. Jonah read it once. Then he looked up at me. Where's the IP assignment clause? The what? Intellectual property assignment. It's standard in contractor agreements. It's the clause where you agree that anything you create in the course of the work belongs to the client, not to you. He held up the page. It's not here. I felt something shift in my chest. What does that mean? It means that under Arizona law and federal copyright law, any original work you created as an independent contractor, any work product where you hold the creative authorship, belongs to you, not to Callaway, to you. He set the page down. Is there a work for hire clause anywhere else? An addendum? A scope of work document? I thought about it. No. He said lawyers were an unnecessary expense. He downloaded the template. Jonah sat back in his chair. He had this expression. Not quite a smile, more like the face of a person watching a chess game where one side doesn't realize they've already lost. Tell me what you built for them. I told him. The vendor database. The master contract templates. The run-of-show format. The client intake process. The budget tracking system. The post-event debrief structure that the team now used automatically without even thinking about where it had come from. And then I mentioned the Hargrove account proposal, the one I'd written solo in a weekend, while Spencer was in Cabo, the 40-page document that had landed a $1.2 million annual client. Jonah picked up his coffee cup, looked at it, set it down again. You wrote the proposal? Yes. As a contractor. Yes. Without an IP assignment clause. Apparently. He looked at me steadily. Then you own the copyright to that proposal. And probably to most of the operational systems you described, which means Callaway Event Group has been using your intellectual property, your actual legally protectable intellectual property, for 4 years, without a license, without compensation for the IP itself, just a flat contract rate. The miser's trap. My uncle had been so focused on avoiding payroll taxes, on keeping me cheap and off the books, that he had handed me something infinitely more valuable than a salary. He had handed me ownership. I looked at Jonah. What do I do with that? He smiled for real this time. First, we register everything we can with the Copyright Office. Then we talk about what you want, licensing, damages, or leverage. Leverage, I said. Definitely leverage. We spent the next 3 weeks moving carefully. Jonah filed copyright registrations for the Hargrove proposal, the run-of-show template, and 4 other pieces of original work product that met the threshold for creative authorship. Each filing was quiet, routine. Nobody at Callaway knew. I also went back through 4 years of emails and found 23 voicemails I'd saved. My uncle, stressed and loud, leaving messages that ranged from condescending to outright hostile. "You're supposed to handle this. That's literally all I pay you to do. I don't have time for your questions, just figure it out. Spencer's name is on this account, not yours. Stop making it about you." I saved them all to a personal drive. Then I did something that took me about 20 minutes on the Arizona Corporation Commission website. I registered a new LLC. I called it Elevate Event Collective. The night I filed, I sat in my car in the parking lot of the UPS store where I'd printed the paperwork, and I cried. Not sad crying, the other kind. The kind that's equal parts relief and terror and something that feels, for the first time in 4 years, like forward motion. The Hargrove December Gala was the crown jewel of Callaway's year. It happened every year at the Scottsdale Biltmore. 400 guests, a keynote, an awards ceremony, a sit-down dinner, and a live performance. The Hargrove VP of Marketing, a woman named, well, I'll call her the client, because she's since become a friend and I want to protect that, had been my primary contact for 3 years. We talked weekly. She trusted me implicitly. She had no particular reason to trust Spencer, whom she'd described to me once, off the record, as very enthusiastic and not especially useful. The gala was 6 weeks out. Contracts were signed. Vendors were confirmed. The run of show, my run of show, now federally registered, was in its 4th revision. And then Spencer sent an invoice. Not to me, to the Hargrove client directly. For an event management services upgrade. Essentially billing them an additional $35,000 for enhanced coordination that he had not provided, could not describe in detail if asked, and had apparently decided to add to the invoice because he'd heard they had extra budget remaining in their event line item. She called me immediately. "Did you know about this?" I had not known about this. I had found out approximately 30 seconds before she called me, when she forwarded me the invoice with a question mark. I told her I'd look into it. I hung up and walked straight into my uncle's office. Spencer was already there. They were laughing about something. The Hargrove client just received an invoice for $35,000 in services that weren't in the contract, I said. Spencer looked at the ceiling. My uncle looked at me. "It's a value add," Spencer said. "We've been doing extra work. You haven't done any work on this event." "I have. You work for us," my uncle said, his voice dropping to that quiet, controlled register. "The work you do is Callaway's work." I looked at him. "Is it?" He didn't understand what I was asking. He thought I was being insubordinate. He pointed at the door. "Handle the client. Tell her it's an administrative error. We'll pull the invoice. And if I don't?" Dead silence. "Then you're in breach of your contract," he said slowly, like he was explaining something to a child. "And I'll make sure no one in this industry hires you." I had expected something like this. I had prepared for exactly this. It still landed like a fist to the sternum, because it was my uncle saying it. Not a stranger. Not a bad boss at a corporation I could leave without looking back. The man who had come to my college graduation. The man my mother trusted. I took a breath. "I'll handle the client," I said. I walked back to my desk. I called Jonah. I told him what happened. "It's time," he said. I called the Hargrove client back. I told her the truth. Not all of it, not the legal details, but enough. That there were some internal changes happening at Callaway. That I was starting my own firm. That I would be reaching out shortly with a formal proposal. And that I wanted to make sure the December gala went perfectly, regardless of what happened internally. She was quiet for a moment. "Will the team be the same?" she asked. "The vendor relationships, the systems, the run-of-show process, all of it comes with me." Another pause. "Send me the proposal when you're ready." I then typed a resignation letter, 30 days notice per the contract. I walked it back to my uncle's office and set it on his desk. He read it standing up. His face went through about 4 different expressions in the span of 10 seconds. "You're being impulsive," he said. "I've been planning this for 3 months. You don't have clients. I have a meeting next week." He looked up. Something in my tone must have registered, because his eyes narrowed. "With who?" I didn't answer. "You signed a contract," he said. "If you take any of my clients, I'll sue you." I'd encourage you to have an attorney review my contract before you do that, I said. Specifically Clause 3, which covers work product ownership, and I'd also encourage a conversation with that attorney about 1099 misclassification. Because the IRS has been very active on that issue in Arizona, and the threshold for what constitutes an employee versus a contractor is quite specific. I've been logging my hours, my schedule, my equipment usage, and the degree of control exercised over my work for the past 3 years. It makes for interesting reading. My uncle stared at me. You'll hear from my attorney, I said. Have a good afternoon. I have replayed that walk to the parking lot in my head probably 200 times. The afternoon light in Scottsdale in October is this particular shade of amber that makes everything look warmer than it is. I sat in my car, hands on the steering wheel, and I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollowed out and electrified at the same time. Like something that had been pressing against my ribs for 4 years had finally stopped. I cried again. Same kind as before. The forward motion kind. The next 4 weeks were the most focused of my life. Jonah sent a formal notice to Callaway outlining my copyright claims and the terms under which I was willing to license the operational frameworks to them for the duration of any ongoing projects, or alternatively, cease and desist their use immediately. The letter also noted the IRS misclassification exposure, documented and ready to report if litigation was pursued. My uncle called twice. I didn't answer. He had his attorney call Jonah. Jonah had a very pleasant and extremely specific conversation with that attorney about the Copyright Office registration dates, the complete absence of an IP assignment clause, and the 23 voicemails I'd saved. They did not pursue litigation. The Hargrove client signed a contract with Elevate Event Collective 4 days before her December gala. I delivered that event exactly as planned. Same vendors, same run of show, same level of detail that her team had come to expect. The CEO did not have a shellfish incident. The AV ran clean. The award ceremony ended exactly on time. Afterward, she pulled me aside. I want to talk about next year, she said. All 3 offsites. The gala. And we're adding a customer summit in Q2. Elevate Event Collective's first-year contract with Hargrove alone was worth more than my entire 4 years of compensation at Callaway. 3 other clients followed within 6 months. 2 of them I had managed so thoroughly that when they found out I'd started my own firm, they called me. I didn't solicit them. I want to be precise about that, because my uncle's attorney had made noise about tortious interference, and Jonah had told me to be meticulous about the distinction between clients who sought me out and clients I approached. I was meticulous. I have the emails. Spencer and Drew, from what I understand, are still at Callaway. The company has contracted significantly. My uncle hired 2 full-time operations people to replace what I had been doing alone, and from the job postings I've seen, he's paying each of them a salary that is, combined, approximately 6 times what he paid me. I don't think he learned the right lesson. I think he learned that operations is expensive, which is not the same thing. Here's what I want you to take from this. If you're the person I think you are, the one who recognized something in the first 30 seconds of this story, the one who keeps showing up, keeps fixing things, keeps being the one who knows where everything is and how everything works, and keeps waiting for the moment when someone in charge looks up from their own ambition long enough to acknowledge it. That moment is not coming from them. It has to come from you. The contractor classification that was supposed to keep me small, keep me cheap, keep me temporary. It was the thing that made me free. Because when you are not their employee, your work is not automatically theirs. When they hand you a generic template instead of a real contract, because they think lawyers are expensive, they are handing you a legal document that does not transfer your rights. Every system you build, every process you design, every proposal you write from scratch, under federal copyright law, that is yours until you sign it away. And if they never made you sign it away, then they have been using something that was never theirs to begin with. Know your contract. All of it. Not just the number at the bottom, but every clause, and specifically every clause that isn't there. I am not temporary. I never was. The only difference between then and now is that I finally stopped letting someone else decide what I was worth, and started charging accordingly. My uncle still tells people I was a contractor who went off on her own. He says it with a shrug. like it was an expected outcome, like he saw it coming, like it was fine. I hear this secondhand from people we both know in the Phoenix event industry. A small world. Word travels. What he doesn't say is what it cost him. I assume that part's harder to tell at a Chamber of Commerce mixer. I'm in a new office now. Real desk, real windows. I have 2 full-time employees and 3 contractors, with proper IP assignment clauses in their agreements, because I actually read the law. Last December, Elevate Event Collective produced 7 events in a single month. One of them was a conference for 600 people at the Arizona Grand Resort. I wore the outfit I wanted to wear. My name was on the run of show, not at the bottom, at the top. I've thought a lot about what actually went wrong for my uncle, not in a vindictive way. More like the way you turn a strange object over in your hands trying to understand how it was made. Because on paper, he wasn't stupid. He built a real business from nothing. He understood clients and relationships, and the particular kind of trust that takes years to develop in a service industry. He was good at the human side of things. What he was catastrophically bad at was seeing the whole picture. Specifically, the parts of the picture that didn't come with a title or a face he recognized as important. That blindness was the thing that undid him. Not me. Not Jonah's letter. Not the Copyright Office filings or the IRS exposure or the Hargrove client signing with Elevate. Those were just consequences. The actual cause was a decision he made 4 years earlier, when he looked at what I was capable of, and decided that the cheapest possible version of my presence was good enough. That I would stay because I had nowhere better to go. That the work I built would remain his because he had given me a platform to build it on. He confused proximity to power with ownership of it. And he confused my patience for passivity. There's a version of this story where I leave earlier, where I walk out after year 2, when the pattern was already clear, and spare myself 2 more years of folding table and extension cord. I've made peace with the fact that I didn't. Because I think I needed to understand the full shape of what was happening before I could dismantle it cleanly. Every extra month I stayed was a month of documentation, of learning, of building, quietly, the thing I would eventually take with me. What I know now, and what I wish I'd known at 26, is that your competence is an asset with a market value, and the person setting your rate is not a neutral party. They have their own interests. When someone classifies you as a contractor instead of an employee, when they keep you off the org chart, when they answer every request for recognition with some version of not yet or the timing isn't right, that is not an administrative decision. That is a negotiating position, and you were allowed to have one too. Spencer and Drew were not more valuable than me. They were more legible to my uncle. They fit the image of what he thought leadership looked like, so he invested in them and extracted from me. That's a failure of imagination on his part, but it's also a warning. The people who benefit from undervaluing you will rarely be the ones to correct it. That correction has to come from you, on your own timeline, with evidence and preparation and, if necessary, a very good IP attorney. The integrity piece matters too. I didn't lie. I didn't sabotage. I didn't solicit clients who hadn't sought me out first. I left cleanly, gave proper notice, and let the work speak. There's something important in that, not because the high road is always the comfortable road, but because I needed to be able to look at what I built and know that it was built right. Elevate Event Collective is mine, fully, with nothing shadowed by a decision I made in anger or desperation. My uncle lost what he lost because he treated someone essential as a sure expendable. That's the whole equation. It's not complicated. What you refuse to value has a way of walking out the door and opening its own shop, and taking the client list with it.